Next presenter, Mr. Tom Clark, is an award-winning kindergarten teacher, Golden Apple Award, who is looking for a way to increase students' listening when he found storytelling. He hasn't been the same since. In retirement, Tom explores the visual arts, specializing in Picasseat, broken china mosaic. Help me welcome Tom Clark.
Thank you. This is a wonderful evening. I'm just so glad to be a part of it. I was 6 years old when I found out I wasn't going to live forever. My sister Cora told me, "You're gonna die." I said, "Today?" "Yes, today, dummy, you're gonna die." But why? You ate sumac berries, didn't you? Haven't you ever heard of poison sumac? You ate poison sumac berries, so you're gonna die. Goodbye. I was crushed. What was I gonna do? I was 6 years old. I tried to make my life flash before me, but when you're 6, you got nothing to flash. Oh, I knew it was my own fault. It was always my curiosity that got me in trouble. I would stand there at the back of our house and look out across that little hayfield, and there they were on the other side of that little field, standing like little soldiers, those sumac trees, child-high trees, and in the fall, they were crimson red, but they weren't. When you went right up to them, those leaves were blotches of yellow and green and orange, like some pointillist painting, and they drew you across the field. And when you got there, there was a candle cluster of berries right at the top of every one of those little trees. I couldn't resist. I reached up and grabbed one of those, pulled it off, shucked it in my hands, blew the husks off, and popped those berries in my mouth. I wouldn't say they were the best things I'd ever eaten. Sort of like the original grape nuts. But they were good, And as I'm munching on those, I turned around and looked back across that little hayfield to my house, and that's when I saw her. The seer of all things on our farm, my sister Cora. She was just standing there looking at me. She had her hands on her hips, and as soon as she saw me munching on those nuts, she turned around and made a beeline for the kitchen door, and I knew she was going to rat me out to my mother, whatever I had done. But I didn't know I was going to die. Die? How could that? You know what? I didn't know what to do because I couldn't really talk to anybody. We lived on a farm 7 miles from town. I was 7 miles from my closest friends. And sometimes I could talk to Cora, but I wasn't feeling particularly close to her at the moment. So I did the next best thing. I went to the barn and I sat down in the hay manger and talked to my best friend, my calf, Bootsy. Now, Bootsy and I had this relationship, I guess. But whenever I sat down in the manger, Bootsy would come over and play the head-butting game. He would butt me with his head. I'd push him away. He'd butt me with his head. I'd push him away. But today, when he butted me with his head, I did the only thing I really kind of knew how to do. I cried. I just sat there and cried. And that's what I was doing when I heard the heavy barn door slam behind me, and then I felt my mother's hand on my shoulder, and she said, "Tommy, what's the problem?" "I'm gonna die today," she said. "Yeah." "But why are you gonna die?" "Well, I ate sumac berries, like poison sumac. Cora told me. She told me it was poison sumac, and I'm gonna die." Oh, there was a long pause. My mother said, "Well, Tommy, you probably remember that I taught you the difference between poison sumac and sumac trees, so I don't think you're going to die today. And also, do you always believe what Cora tells you?" And I said, "Oh, not always. Well, sometimes." And then she said, "Remember the time," well, Tommy, you have kind of stick-out ears, and remember the time that she said that your ears look like the ears on old Eddie Lindstrom, who lives down by a long lake, and that he was probably your real dad because he has stick-out ears and you have stick-out ears. Do you remember? Did you believe that?" "Well, yeah, for a little while, but I..." And she stopped me with her stare. And she said, and the other time, remember when our house chimney caught on fire and all this white billowy smoke came out, and Cora tried to convince you that meant that your dad had just been elected Pope? Do you remember that? Did you believe that? Well, well, for a little while. Well, my mother said, you have for quite a little while now believed this is the last day of your life. But I'll tell you what, this isn't going to be the last day of your life if I have anything to say about it. You have chores to do, young man. The calves haven't been fed, the chickens haven't been fed, the eggs haven't been gathered. And you know what? When you get all that done, why don't you come in the house and we'll make some chocolate chip cookies. And then I heard that heavy barn door slam behind me, and I did do the chores, and we did make cookies. And you know what? My wonderful sister Cora turned 76 this year, and I still don't believe everything she tells me. And that's the truth, too.